Thank you. So I will start with the first question, and I'll read a little blurb and then ask the question, and then I'll decide who starts. Okay? So Statistics Canada and the Conference Board of Canada estimate that approximately 7.4% of the GDP and over 1 million jobs are generated by the cultural sector as defined by Statistics Canada. By some estimates, the creative sector is the fourth largest industry in Canada, contributing up to $43.2 billion to the economy and levering $2.7 billion in trade. So here's the question. How does your party's cultural policy recognize the economic impact of the cultural sector, and what is your understanding of that economic impact on the Yukon? So can I ask Ken Bolton to start?
I don't know whether to thank you or not. I'm pleased to start, but what I will not do is engage in a statistical review.
Just remind me you have 3 minutes, eh?
Thank you. Sorry, how many minutes?
3.
Oh, that's interesting, because in the email I was told it was 10, so 3 is actually much better. What I would like to say is that the New Democratic Party under Jack Layton is fully in support of the arts and cultural industries in Canada. We recognize what a huge impact it makes, not just on the bottom line. I've heard estimates of the net impact of our cultural industries in Canada anywhere from $43 billion to $85 billion. I would probably like to suggest that it's on the higher end, depending on how you measure it in direct and indirect expenditures. For example, if you look at the film industry in the Yukon, the actual dollar value is not that huge, perhaps. But if you go and talk to someone like Barry Bellchambers and ask him how many rooms he filled in his hotel, because a previous NDP government, no, I don't want to be too political about that, but how many rooms that he has filled in his hotel and how many meals he has served, because there is now a fairly vibrant film community in the territory, he would say it's staggering. And even though he may not be a New Democrat supporter, I think he probably would endorse our platform for supporting the arts and culture, particularly the film industry, and making sure that, for example, Radio Canada and CBC are properly funded and stably funded. That's not answering your question about the Yukon impact, and I don't want to get into a dollars figure on it, but if you look at the growth of the cultural sector across Canada, it has kept in step with the growth of every other sector, from 1996 to 2002 at least. So whether it is 7.4%, thank you, or whether it is 4%, depending on other statistics you may see, as our economy grows in every sector, the arts and culture sector keeps in step. So there's no denying that what you are doing, quite apart from the non-economic importance of arts and culture, which I would like to get into later, what you are doing economically is of huge benefit, not just to the Yukon, but to Canada, and it's a no-brainer to me. We need our cultural industries, we need our artists, not because they're nice little economic units, but because they contribute so much more to who we are and how we tell our stories and what our legacy for future generations is.
It is our culture that defines us as Canadians and as Yukoners. Yukon has a long and rich cultural history of storytelling and expression. This tradition continues today with the undertakings of our local artists, musicians, filmmakers, and performers. I am particularly proud of the accomplishments of the cultural sector and their contribution to our economy. This government has a strong cultural policy and fully recognizes the role culture plays in building stronger communities and the role it plays in providing all Canadians with the opportunity to celebrate arts and heritage. It also recognizes the role of the cultural sector plays in telling our stories, Canadian stories, Yukon stories. On top of this, the cultural sector contributes to the local economy. For each event or activity that is held, there is a spin-off of economic benefits to others in the community. As well, it attracts dollars not only from us Yukoners, but also from our visitors. The cultural sector contributes more than $22 billion a year to our economy and employs more than 640,000 Canadians. Here's an example of one component of the cultural sector's impact on our economy. Music Yukon commissioned a study in 2007 that identified Yukon music industry revenues in 2005 totaled $8.3 million. The spin-off or multiplier effect resulted in an additional $2.8 million into our economy. For all these reasons I have mentioned, this government is a strong supporter of arts, culture, and heritage. In fact, according to a 2007 Statistics Canada figures, Yukon enjoys the highest per capita funding for arts and culture in Canada at over $400 per person. Besides the Yukon government's $400,000 of annual support, the federal government supports these areas: books, broadcasting, conservation, copyright, exhibitions, film and video, international affairs, literature, magazines, media arts, museums and galleries, music, news media, newspapers, performing arts, publishing, radio, sound recording, support for festivals, television, visual arts. As well, this summer was recently announced $211,000 in funding to help the following organizations with a variety of events in the city of Whitehorse, including artistic presentations, musical and theatrical performances, and festivals. Yukon Arts Center Corporation, Frostbite Music Society, the Yukon International Storytelling Festival. How much time do I have, Scott? Okay, and so on. Yukon funding. This funding came into the Arts Presentation Canada program and the Building Communities through Arts Heritage program of the Department of Canadian Heritage. The Arts Presentation Canada program gives Canadians increased access to the diversity.
Sorry, Daryl. Time's up.